Good evening, everyone. So my name is Adam Jackson. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle, a grassroots think tank located here in Baltimore. So tonight we have our Malcolm X talk about black male underrepresentation, or just representation in general, in social work and teaching. And so we have a powerhouse of brothers here tonight to talk about that topic. So I won't stay up here too long. I did want to let you know that LBS, in terms of the work that we do in Baltimore, our organization is funded and supported by people who donate to our organization each month. So we don't rely on white philanthropic organizations to sustain our organization. The reason why we can do events like these in our space is because we are supported by black people in Baltimore who donate to the organization. So I just wanted to invite you tonight, if you want to support our work and our advocacy in Baltimore to become a sustainer. People usually sign up for like $10 a month. So that's just to support the work that we do in Baltimore and support events like these. That's why we keep them free. That's why we do them so consistently, because we want to make sure that people have access to the information. So please become a sustainer. If you want to do that, just come see me or anybody in the LBS team. But I'll kick it over to Baba David Miller to introduce our panel and our discussion for this evening. And thank you so much for coming, and I hope y'all have a great time.
So ladies and gentlemen, good evening. How's everybody doing? So my name is David Miller. I am a former teacher, taught in Baltimore City for a number of years, left the classroom in, it's been so long, left the classroom in 1999 and started a consulting firm. And since 1999, I've been fortunate enough to travel across the globe, training teachers and developing programs for young black males. And so I'm going to be moderating a very important panel this evening. One of the things that I hope you guys are willing to do is engage these brothers in questions. So we're not going to be talking for an hour. I'm going to ask the young men on the panel a series of questions so you'll get to know who they are, to get a better understanding why they are passionate about the work that they're doing, and we hope to enter into a serious conversation, particularly as it relates to black men in fields of social work and teaching, as well as getting a better understanding of how we create a pipeline. One of the challenges that we have, ladies and gentlemen, is we haven't created a pipeline for black men to go into professions like teaching and education. And I think in a city like Baltimore, when you think about all of the colleges and universities here and the resources here, to me it is a no-brainer. How many of you guys have ever heard of Call Me Mr.? Raise your hands high. So I just want to highlight Call Me Mr. Call Me Mr. is a program that originally started at Clemson University. It's at 3 other HBCUs in South Carolina and one in Jackson, Mississippi. I used to be one of the advisors for Call Me Mr. at Jackson State. What Call Me Mr. does is they identify African-American males who want to go into teaching. All you have to have is a 2.5 GPA. They give you a full ride, and then you have to give back 5 years to that district, to that school district, based on where that college or university is located. And see, for me, programs like Call Me Mr. should be replicated in cities like Baltimore. We have Morgan, we got Coppin State, we have Bowie, and then we have some other universities. I really believe that if we were serious about grooming a pipeline, that we could do that for black males interested in both teaching and in social work. And so I just wanted to uplift the Call Me Mr. program for you guys to think about. And so I'm going to start with Bobby at the end. I think most of the brothers up here know me. They know I will cut you off. If you're being long-winded, I don't have a problem doing that. And so we really want to be very concrete and concise. And so starting with Brother Bobby, I want you to take about a minute and just introduce yourself and the work that you do, and then share with the group who have been some of your mentors that have helped you along the way. And you got to speak up, man. We need your outdoor voice, man.
Yes, sir. That's a lot to do in a minute.
I have faith in you, man. Come on.
Let me do it this way. My favorite part of what you asked me to do. You are one of my mentors in this work. Human Services, Social Work. And next to you, Dr. Brian Morrison, who was my 11th grade history teacher at Ramstown High School. And definitely look up to Big Brother Joe Jones from Center for Urban Families. Watching him from afar and always had some positive encouragement for me. But I recently graduated from the great Logan State University School of Social Work. My master's degree in social work. Also, I've been working in human services field, working with youth and children and families for years in the Baltimore area. I'm the founder of Son of a Dream Consulting Multimedia Resource Firm based here in Baltimore, and also co-founder of the coming Saturday Enrichment Program for Black boys called Reflection of Kings.
Thank you, sir. Next person.
Good evening. My name is Gil Walker. I would believe that I saw the influences. One of my first influences, one of my first teachers was Dr. Brian Morrison, my father, he and my mother, Tanya Walker. I also been heavily influenced by a lot of our African-centered scholars and educators such as the late Dr. John Henry Clark, A. Sedillion, Jacob Brothers, Kwame Ture, Amos Wilson. A lot of them, I never got to meet them in person, kind of posthumously, from studying them, watching DVDs, and lectures that they gave in the 1980s and 1990s, reading their work, reading the books that they wrote left for us to study from. And that really influenced me and helped me on my own trajectory as a school teacher. I taught high school mathematics in the Philadelphia school system at different charter schools and also in the Philadelphia school district for about 14 years. Also worked in several programs such as the Upward Bound program at Temple University, Upward Bound program at the University of Pennsylvania, several other programs like it. And it just really helped me to just see the need for teaching. Even though I never wanted to be a teacher. I graduated from one of the elite, so-called elite schools here in Baltimore, Holly. And having that experience, I would have never wanted to go into the field of teaching, which is something that, perhaps we can get into tonight about how the profession of teaching is marketed, not only to black men, but to black women as well. As kind of like a backup thing, like if I graduate with a degree and I can't get a job, nothing else, all I can just go teach. That's something that I think we need to address head on. But yeah, that's kind of my background. Now I own and operate a mathematics tutoring and educational consulting company called All This Math. And what All This Math really is beyond just offering tutoring, is really a carved out an education, an independent educational space for our people, for our youth, because I really believe that beyond just trying to recruit more black males into these neo-colonial schools, I think the ultimate goal should be to have a network of independent African-centered schools for our people anyway. And once we have that, then we won't even need to have this type of conversation anymore.
You trying to start something, brother? Brother Spoon?
How you doing? Brother Spoon, Brother Witherspoon. Start with the first question. My first mentor was my mother. She taught me what love is. She taught me how to put family together. Second mentor, him one husband. I was in the Navy, and so this guy I almost feel like Antoine Fisher taught me what a male is like. Growing up, my father wasn't around. David Miller, he embraced me, saw talent in me, and he, no matter what, he just kept on doing what he can to see me through, push me to different meetings. Brother Earl Alameen, he just walked into the door, it's right there. He one of my mentors too. So what I did with Caesar Promise, one of the founders of Caesar Promise mentoring, we ran out of Renaissance Academy, provides 24/7 mentoring. Too many times we get calls at night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Youth having issues going on. One of my youth is right now at the University of Maryland. He's been shot down at Bruce Madness. So it's real. So, but in the school system, I see the need for more black teachers and more social workers to go and deal with our youth and trauma.
So my name is Joe Jones. I'm founder of the Center for Urban Families, the organization that started back in 1999, focused on celebrating social and economic stability for fathers and families. One of the mentor
Henry Gregory. I'm a clinical psychologist. One of the things I do is work at the University of Maryland School of Nursing as an assistant professor in a doctoral program for psych-NPs. I also have my own organization about Peaking Consortium, through which I do training for a lot of agencies, locally, nationally, and sometimes internationally also. In terms of mentors, I'm going to say Ross Ford. Ross just passed in December. But Ross lit more fires in Baltimore in terms of working with people in a compassionate and skillful way than anybody else did. From Philly originally. We developed models, some of it just been published in referee journals. We had agencies, and now branched out of our agencies, it's branched into maybe 10, 15 different agencies. So I would say Ross Ford, and I say Trey Clifton, my dad was 93, and I would go to Mojo. I say my sons, too. 4 sons.
And I'm going to need my panelists to use your outdoor voices. You got the AC in the back. Can you hear me in the back, Davon? Okay. Morrison.
My name is Brian Morrison. I try to use my school teacher voice. I've been a professional public school educator for almost 40 years now. I like to say I failed at retirement. I retired back in 2013, but I failed and I went back to work a couple of years ago. Currently, I'm working full-time in Prince George's County teaching middle school social studies, best subject area to teach. But I'm also the founder of the William J. Watkins Senior Educational Institute. I see you smiling, you're probably an English teacher. But anyways, they'd be like that. They like to hate, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, the William J. Watkins Senior Educational Institute, our main mission is to ensure that children, all children, but especially those in underserved and under-resourced communities receive the best education possible. And we do a lot of things for them. One of the key things that we do, or one of the key components of our work right now is training teachers in culturally responsive pedagogy. And there's a great need for that for a variety of reasons that hopefully we'll get to talk about throughout the evening. One of the other things that we work on is we just completed our first year of the pilot program, a genealogy program working with youth to help them understand their families, themselves, who they are, where they come from, as well as doing local histories of their communities. So the goal of this program is to help our young people know who they are, so that they can love themselves, love one another, and love their community and the people around them. As far as mentors, my first mentor, as many of the other brothers mentioned here, is my mother. My dissertation, which I completed at Morgan State University, it's educational history, looks at the educational efforts of African Americans in Baltimore City during the 19th century. I dedicated that to my mother because she instilled in me, and which I've tried to instill in my children, and I see that they are instilling in their children the importance of education. So my mother is my first mentor. I'd have to say also the director of our boys club when I was growing up in North New Jersey, Milton Berry, deceased a number of years ago. He was always in our corner. He was like the surrogate father of everybody in the community. And all communities need men like that. We need to have men who look out for the kids in the neighborhood. And that's what he did. We lived in Jersey, lived in Brooklyn. Oftentimes on the weekends, he'd take a group of us all the way back to Brooklyn, and we'd hang out in New York or the Coney Island or baseball games and things. On vacation, he would take us camping from Canada to Florida, just on his own time, outside of the regular boys club activities. But finally, I sort of feel you coming at me.
Yeah, you know I'm coming.
Finally, there are many mentors that I've had who helped me along this way. But I'd be remiss if I didn't speak of Dr. Rosalind Turborg Penn, who was the leader of the history department at Morgan State University, who guided me through both my master's and my doctoral research. She was my advisor in both. And as far as in terms of local education mentor, I would be remiss if I didn't speak of Mr. Joseph Woodfolk. If any of you went to Woodlawn High School or Baltimore County, anything like that, you would know of Mr. Woodfolk. He's very prominent, helping teachers, helping students, and Joe must have been in the school district for over 50 years, from his days down at Turner Station all the way up. But that's it. I got my time.
Okay.
Right, that's what I'm talking.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be coming to you in a few minutes for questions. I'm going to ask these guys some very targeted questions. So for Akil, Corey, and Dr. Morrison, why do we need black men in the building, in the schoolhouse, working with our students?
I guess I'll go. If there were more black teachers in school buildings, I've said it many times, there would not be a need for a mentor, such as myself. More and more I see like our youth respond differently when it's coming from a person that looks like them. I hate to say that, right? But we just gotta be frank and be like, just be real. It's like making a strong baritone of a strong black male voice, or the motherly tone of a black teacher's, female teacher's voice. It does something to them. So it's like when they doing wrong, and a lot of times I see you doing wrong when I go into a class, I'm checking one of my mentees, and I see like, youth are not responding to I had the word said, called spade, a white teacher. Whereas I go into a classroom with a black teacher, and they tell the young man, sit down. The young man is sitting out and sit down. So I say it more for like a behavioral, and that's what really our children are not ignorant. They're more like behaviorally deprived. They really can't really function to go ahead and just take in the education. So I really say our youth respond differently when it's a person of our color.
Okay. Y'all can speak up a little bit.
I mean, speaking from personal experience, I know I think education is a very relational activity. It's built on relationships, as they say, prior to the cliche, nobody cares what you know until you know what you care. And that speaks to the relationship that should take place between the student and the teacher. We also have to think about the fact that education in and of itself is a very vulnerable activity, it's a very vulnerable experience, because what you have to do is you have to really let another human being know that you don't know something. And that may be a problem for a lot of us in terms of dealing with our egos. And that's a natural thing. So those people that it's necessary that you're with someone that you're comfortable with in order to be able to expose yourself in that way, to be that vulnerable, so that you can actually open up and be taught and to learn something. And also it's just important to be able to be around people that you identify more with, that you relate to, and that you may aspire to be. When I was in 9th grade at Poly, I had two math teachers, Mr. Sam Brown, Mr. Joshua Bessich, for Alpha 2, and also for geometry. And these were black men that I looked to as models for black manhood, and I'm 13, 14 years old, and my goal is to be a black man. So it only made sense that in this classroom I'm able to see them on a daily basis, and they reminded me of my own father and other uncles and my grandfathers and other men that I had seen and had received guidance from as well. So having that relational aspect, and then being present, and then them being able to then deliver content. The content was easy because the relationship was there, and I even had a desire to want to work for them. I remember the quick story. Sam Brown also was my teacher at the Horizons Exploration Program at UMBC, one of Dr. Bowski's programs. And the first week of the program, I'm there, away from home, I'm on campus, a lot of girls there, I'm 13, 14, 11. I'm not really paying attention, not doing what I'm supposed to do. I take a quiz, I fail, bomb the quiz because I didn't study. I had the potential, I had the ability, but I just didn't study. Mr. Brown was returning the quizzes, and he passed me my quiz, puts his hand on my shoulder, and kind of like young boys do, right? You can do better. And I did, in that moment, I felt like it was like my father was having a conversation with me. saying just those quick words to me. And then from there on, I turned it around for the rest of the summer. Then, as luck would have it, when I enrolled in Poly in that September, he ended up being my algebra 2 teacher as well. So I think that, some type of divine intervention there kind of worked out for me. But yeah, just that relational aspect is very important.
There's no short answer to this question.
There's no, this could be whole symposium, but you won't give us a short answer for the sake of time.
My background is history, and I like to contextualize things. Right now, in Baltimore City, well, I won't say right now, but for in preparation for this, I looked at the last 10 years of statistics that were available on the numbers of African-American teachers in Baltimore City public schools in Baltimore County. Right now, there are 400, well, in 2014-15 school year, last publicly available statistics, there were 464 African-American male teachers in Baltimore City public schools. There were 1,546 women, and they only made up 38% of the teaching force of Baltimore City. Back in 2008, a major thing happened. Baltimore City public schools were no longer taught by a majority of African-American teachers. And 2 years before that, there were almost 60% of the teachers in Baltimore City public schools were African-American teachers. So since 2005 to the last year of statistics were available, 2015, there's been almost a 30% drop in the number of teachers, and we're down to about 1/3 of the teachers being African-American males. Baltimore County is even more dismal. Baltimore County, there are less than 200 African-American male teachers, and there are over 40,000 African-American students in Baltimore County, and there are over 80,000 African-American, students, male and female, in those two districts. So that's just some of the context. And again, there's no short answer, but I got to put some context to this. Baltimore City, when black people got into Baltimore City public schools in 1867, one of the first things that was done was those black teachers who initially came in were fired, and no black teachers could teach in Baltimore City. So from 1867 up to the early 1880s, there was a struggle, a fight, just to get black teachers to teach in the black schools. Make a long story short, that fight went on until the early 20th century when they were able to get colored teachers in the colored schools. So from the early 20th century up to Brown versus Board of Education, there was a colored school system that was run by colored teachers, and I'm using the vernacular of the time here, run by colored teachers in the colored schools. And the type of education that was given in those schools was an education that provided two very important things. First and foremost, it provided really three things. First and foremost, it was rooted in a spiritual freedom. And this goes back to the earliest days of African American seeking education. Many of those teachers in those schools, in those colored schools, were Sunday school teachers, black women who were doing that teaching. And they lived in the community with the children that they were teaching. And they walked to school with those children in the morning. And they saw them in the neighborhood later on. And they gave them spankings, and they taught them in Sunday school and church. So there was a cultural capital that went along with that education. The reason why we need African American teachers in our schools is because it is that type of education that our children need. An education that will be one that will free us, that will empower them to be able to come back and build our own community for us, to be those who would work in those independent schools that we would create for ourselves, or even take over the schools that do exist and free ourselves. That's the type of education that a teacher, this is why many black teachers are in many of these schools. We're an oasis. The worst kids will gravitate, the quote-unquote worst kids will gravitate to us because we understand, we relate, we can connect with them and help them to understand how they can navigate the structures that they're within. And they're looking for ways to survive, to grow, and to thrive. But like I said,
I know
that's my minute.
We got some limitations. And so Dr. Gregory and Bobby, talk about the need for creating a pipeline for black men to go in fields of social work and psychology, and why is that important?
Well, I'm going to start with the experience I had in my internship just a matter of months ago. So I had to attend an IEP meeting with my task supervisor. I was interning for the Department of Social Services in Baltimore City. So my task supervisor and I are sitting at the table at the IEP meeting, assistant principal, the mom, etc. The team, that's part of the IEP team. And it's in Howard County. And the mom, the foster mom, was telling all the challenges that the boy has had, this black boy, all the challenges that he had previously coming to the school, and a lot of focus on the negative as far as how eloping, as far as attitude or whatever have you, and things I was hearing from the assistant principal was saying, well, we're kind of walking on eggshells around here. We're kind of waiting for the shoe to fall off the foot, and there wasn't anyone at the table outside of myself, my task supervisor, that was for this boy in terms of advocating for his best interests. And here I am in this position as an intern, and my education, at least credentials-wise, doesn't match those who are at the table. But I was the only one that felt the need to speak up and look at his strengths and look at the progress of how well he's done academically since he's been at this school. How many incidents has he had? Has he been suspended? To sum it up, David, if you don't have someone that has your best interests at heart and understand your strengths and also understand your challenges, and before you sitting at the table, then I have to say you're definitely up Shit's Creek, so to speak. Part of my language, but that's just the truth. Because there's no one to defend the well-being. And I'm going to go a step further. There's no one to defend humanity of black boys within these institutions where you're looked at as a monster. It doesn't matter whether it's public school systems or it doesn't matter whether it's child welfare. You're looked at as a monster. So if you have no one that is ready to defend with shield and sword in hand your humanity, then yeah, I'll say you're definitely in dire straits.
Dr. Gregory?
So there's some recent research that says the average white police or white professional, teachers, sees black males as at least 5 years older than they actually are. That's true. To me, it was right as a shot. The police are probably seeing them being 16 to 17, 11. Okay? So, hold that. So, okay, another mentor I didn't mention, Bob Hill. Bob Hill wrote a couple pieces, Strengths of Black Families, and then Strengths of Black Families 25 years later. He really shifted the paradigm from looking at pathology to looking at strengths. And that's one thing that happens when people are not intimidated by you. When people recognize you and see you as just part of the family, as a part, rather than some alien being that has this reputation of being disruptive. So I relate to you as family, then I become part of your village. And each one of us, in social work or in education, becomes part of it. Every child, we become part of their village. And we can even invite them in with that knowledge that they are part of us or we're part of them, or we can hold them at our arm's reach. So yeah, it's critically important that they see models. I've got a lot of stories, but just one real quick. I remember being 19 years old and not quite finding a way, looking at the AFP and living independently, and being in the store, being a cashier. And a little lady came up to me, she's in my line, and she looked up at me, she said, "Son, what's your name?" And I told her, she said, "I'm going to remember you, you're going to be something one day." In my mind, she was a school counselor or an educator or something, but just hearing that from somebody who wasn't in my direct family was very encouraging and supportive. Because it's another side of me, too.
And so, Joe, share with the audience in the work that you do at the Center for Urban Families and the charge that you have to re-engage and engage black men and fathers in the community. Talk about the need in your work to be able to hire black men on your staff, to be able to go out and do the street outreach, do the workforce development. Talk about the critical need of black men in more of the human services field.
So I have two kind of responses to it. One response
Can you
is,
speak up just a little? I know you're loud in this joint.
one response is, can you hear me back there? One response is, our schools of social work and the other places we train healthcare professionals, we do very little to prepare folks to work with families in the context of dads. Right?
Say that again, the last part.
Very few of our schools of social work and other places where we train healthcare professionals, very seldom do they include content that prepare people to work in the family context that includes dads. Right? So we can teach you how to work with moms, we can teach you how to work with children, but it's very difficult for a person to know how to apply that if you want to train them in, right? The only university that I know in the country right now that has a dedicated curriculum that you can apply to have a specific father curriculum is Hunter College, right? Now that's within the last year or so, right? And so I remember when I was in school social work at UMBC, there was no emphasis whatsoever on helping dads, right? So as it relates to the work that I do with the Center, so my organization, I have about 40 employees. Most folks are in the human services side of the community, right? And I'm very intentional around creating leadership tracks for them. Matter of fact, as part of their performance review, they can't even come and have a performance review unless they have a professional development plan for themselves, right? And then we work to try to reinforce what they are looking to do for themselves around the reality of what we can afford to do, which is limited in terms of running a nonprofit, but there are some things we can do. But what we want to do is to create a leadership track within the organization so that people can aspire to and get an opportunity to move up, right? So the first thing I do with any position that's open in my organization is to make sure first that the people in the organization get an opportunity to apply for those jobs, right? And they got to perform, right? There's nothing given to them, right? But the need for us to have competent professionals in the human services sector that understand the needs of fathers, given the challenges we have in our community. How many people in this room know of a young person that if you ask them how do they feel about their dad, they would say, I hate him. Right? That's the majority of people in this room. Right? We can't have a society, a city where young people are growing up with that kind of hate and animosity, and we have a society or a city where we saturate the community with weapons and drugs and mass destruction. That is a formula for disaster. So we've got to course correct that and think about what Biden does, both in terms of just getting his master's degree in social work and a narrative change maker. That, man, it's like crack and heroin, man. You know what I mean? And so we've got to foster more of those kinds of relationships and develop those kinds of skills in our community that are culturally specific to the challenges that you face.
Yes.
Come ask you. So look, 23 years I was the clinical director at Western Life Center out of DC. When I started there, it was 11 master's level, Ph.D. level. When I finished, it was like 250 in 4 states and 2 African countries. Okay? One of the things that we did back then, I don't know what they do now, every time we hired a male, we hired a female. Every time we hired a female, we hired a male. Because I've been in plenty places in the field. I'm the only male in the room. Or it's 3 males and 20 women. So you have to.
That ain't always bad.
It has been bad.
Let's stay focused, gentlemen. Stay focused now.
Davon's down Murray. I'm sorry, Davon.
Right. Stay focused. Come on, Doc. Come on.
So, and in the process, you learn something too. Males may need a little different in terms of supervision. That's true. You may need a more active type of supervision for the males. Since I'm having this conversation, notice males have changed a little bit. Our species is still evolving. these kids have a lot of energy. Sit down, shut up, and be still don't work for them. It is torture. It is torture. It is unethical. And that's how the school system's set up. And when the kids can't do that, they get the message that there's something wrong with them. And so everybody wants to be good at something. If I can't be good at being a student, I'm going to find something else to be good at. You know, being a class clown, a class bully, or I'm going to find something else to be good at. You recognize that was me. Yeah. So all I'm saying is, this is a systemic issue. One real quick story. So my youngest is 35. You know, when he's about 5, he's going to maybe 6 or 7. He's going to a Catholic school. And one day they asked me to come in. They heard I work with black males, and I was going to sit down. Before I did my presentation, the teacher called me up and said, "We have some problems with Elias." I said, "Excuse me?" I said, "What kind of problems?" She's doing stuff. He's like rolling his pencil. And then he plays with his tie. And sometimes he speaks out before I call him. That's actually in the DSM-5, y'all. You know? the next time I go to the school, my wife is with me, we're going up, and they give me the report card, and the principal says, Elijah's doing pretty good, but she has an envelope with every child. And she pulls out this envelope and says, "This is 2 things I'm taking off of him. I'm expecting a switchblade or a gun." It's a stub of a pencil and a piece of string. My wife looks at me, and I know that you look at me, let's get our child out of here right now. So we did. We took him to a smaller school in the community where black male was running. And my wife introduces us, walked into this community, got that close to her and said, "I'm bringing my son here a genius, and I want him back the same way." So we designed the program to adapt to his style of being. So when he would finish his work early like he always did, and then he's looking around, he had 3 things for him to do. He'd go to the board, write on the board. He had another youth that he could tutor, or he could work on the computer. But he didn't have to sit down, shut up, and be still. I would never try to teach black boys about drums or something to move and touch and something to do with that energy. Okay, that's enough.
And so we're going to come to you guys. We're going to take 3 questions. But before we come to you guys, I want to throw this out to each of the guys on the panel. I want you to think about it, and then you'll respond after we engage the good folks in the audience. I want you guys to be able to identify one project that you're currently working on, or a project that you're going to be working on in the next 6 months to a year. Because one of the things that I think doesn't happen too often, ladies and gentlemen, is that there are some tremendous black minds in the city of Baltimore, particularly black and male, that are doing exceptional work in our community that most people never hear about or know about. And so we have a panel of men who are really active in a number of different spaces. So I at least want you guys to be able to get a slice of some of the kinds of projects that they're working on, because I guarantee you guys will be blown away. So just think about either a current project or body of work that you're involved in, or something that you'll be initiating in the next 6 months to a year. So let me go to the good folks in the audience. We're going to take 3 questions, and then we're going to come back to the panel. Now, here are the guidelines for questions. It's real simple. It's 3. First, you got to ask a question. All right. What do you think the second one is? Brother Earl, you got to ask a question. And the third one is you got to ask a question. And the reason being is because there's a lot of energy in the room. We want to be able to get as many responses as we can. We don't have time for your childhood story and all that. We ain't doing that today. So 3 questions.
They also say who they are.
And yeah, say who you are. If you're a teacher, social worker, work in the community. So 3 questions. I'm going to need you to stand up and project. Yes, ma'am. You got to stand up and project.
Nadine Finnegan Carr, actually a professor at the University of Maryland School of Social Work right up the street. I used to teach with David 100 years ago. And my question is specifically for all of you in terms of the fact that both social work and education are traditionally female-oriented professions. And so when we think about the structures that lead to education and social work, we also have a mindset from people that it is for women. And I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying that when we look at why we're not getting black males or males in general to engage in these professions, part of it is when you say to a young man, maybe you should be a teacher, maybe you should be a social worker, maybe you should work with youth, they think of it as that's something that girls should do. Working with families is something that girls should be working with, so they think of only working for mothers and not the fathers. So how can we change that perception so that we can increase the pipeline?
Great question.
So we've got to move away from this patriarchy, toxic masculinity thing. There's so much a part of how this social act is killing the whole planet. Energy-wise, we're moving to a more feminine representation. What I mean by that, I'm talking about the toxic masculinity, I'm talking about power, dominance, and control. As opposed to when I say feminine, we're all masculine and feminine. When we're talking about this, I'm talking about communication, cooperation, I'm talking about connections. So we have to socialize our kids differently and let Tavon practice. And not shut that down. Help him to learn to express. If I could teach one thing in school, it would be emotional confidence for kids. To teach kids how to identify their emotions in themselves and other people. Part of this toxic masculine thing that gets us in trouble is I'm cool. Cool means I ain't dealing with my emotions. And then extreme is I'm cold. I'm not dealing with nobody else, and I can do anything because I'm not tending to emotions. So I'm saying, on the other end, it's about socializing males to appreciate their sensitivity and to let that part of their experience take some leadership also.
To answer your question, I like you always thought about the antecedent. Why? Besides, I guess our youth thinking that being a teacher is feminine, we also got to go and think about why they don't want to be a teacher. Another reason why is that to be in front of youth, and they are youth, right? And to go ahead and try to educate youth, that's scary to me. It's like, man, all right, so I got the class clown over here, right? And the class clown will laugh anytime I say something, right? So it's just like teaching confidence. Where it's man, I don't care who in the room, you a star. I don't care who in the room, you're an educator. So it's teaching and instilling confidence in our youth that where yeah, you can educate.
You're right on a lot. But the big part of the question is when. When do you get people to commit to being professional educators? And that oftentimes takes place early in their college years. When you're sitting down and trying to choose a career, a profession, what you really want to study. For many people, they go to college, they think they want to do one thing, they major in one thing, they wind up doing another. So another part of that is understanding what the purpose of education is and what the value of it is and what the value of being a teacher is. Big part of the problem is whether you're male or female, we don't value educators. We don't value this profession. We don't value the important work that is done every day in schools to our youth, our children, are our future. All of us should want to be teachers. Everybody in here should want to be a teacher. Everybody in here should say, hey, where and when can I teach? Because when I was teaching middle school, I had 3 daughters. And I turned around one day and said, wait a minute. Which one of these boys do I want to come and visit my daughters? Because I want my daughters to have good husbands. Right. I need somebody in here teaching these young men to be men. We should all want to be teachers. And we as a community, we're the ones who have to make that clear to our children. We have to tell our children, hey, I want you to teach my grandson. I want you to teach his children. I want your daughter to be the teacher of my children. And it's not necessarily a male or a female thing. It's more about what we need as a community. We need to teach ourselves. We need to be teaching we know what our kids need. And we send our the real historical piece here, okay? Brown versus Board of Education. In Baltimore City, when Brown versus Board of Education was instituted, the NAACP and the black folks said, we're going to go with choice. We're not going to force our kids to go to these white schools. And the reason that the guy out down at the University of Maryland wrote this book about Brown versus Board of Education in Baltimore, and he couldn't understand why. He's a white dude, I forget his name. Anyway, what is his name?
Is it Crenshaw's book?
No, it's another guy. Yeah, that's the guy. What's his last name? Yeah, Bone. And he couldn't understand why they chose that. Why didn't they say, hey, yeah, let's send our kids to the white school? It was because since the early 20th century, up until Brown versus Board of Education, the black community had been building Douglas and Dunbar and Booker T. Washington and putting their own teachers into those schools, teaching our own children. And that's what we need. That's what we need. One of the reasons I did my research was because people would always say, hey, it was better when we had our own schools, when schools were segregated. I said, man, that doesn't really sound right. Until I did the research. And it's true. It's true. It's true.
So before we go, who has the next question? Let me be real clear with you guys. If we're going to turn this city around, it's going to be men, like the men that are on this panel, and other black men in this city who have the skills, the street credibility, and the knowledge to work with our children. I don't care who the police commissioner is. I don't care who we elected into an office. The mindset in our community has reached a point where if we are serious and we want to win, we got to start funding and empowering black men and organizations to go in and do the heavy lifting. All this other stuff that we talk about, it sounds real good, right? Be very clear. It sounds really good, but we're not moving the needle. And whether it's in school, as Bobby and Dr. Gregory talked about, we have to start reaching out to these young men earlier to get them in the pipeline. And then we got to start putting greater pressure. When I went to graduate school, I was the only brother in school education. Went to a predominantly white graduate school. We got to start forcing these institutions of higher learning to either get with the program or something else is about to jump on, right? And so one of the reasons why LBS decided to have this Malcolm X Forum is because this is an unrepresented population of men in the field. And that's one of the reasons why, as we go to this young lady's question, I'm going to have each one of them kind of share some of the work that they're doing, because you guys will be blown away that most of you in this room have probably never even heard of some of these guys on this panel. And they're doing amazing work. So this young lady, stand up, tell us your name.
Hi, my name is Henry Garcia. I laughed because I'm an aspiring English teacher.
Okay. You English teacher, stop playing. Come on.
Majoring in sociology at Hopkins. And my question is, as someone who wants to teach in a predominantly black city, what would you have wanted from your non-black teachers when you were in school?
To value,
To better support.
to value and identify my humanity. First and foremost, not coming in thinking you're here to save me. Because I'm a black boy living in the inner city, or because I'm a black boy, you're here to correct me. You're here to put something inside of me to make me respond and behave you the way you want me to. And far too often, that is the process that I guess I've seen in my professional career as well as a youth, that we have teachers coming out into these communities thinking that they're ready to save black people. And they don't understand. You're not here and you cannot save any of us. And that's not your purpose and that's not your job. Because this coming in from, it's an imbalance of power in your perspective. Because if you come in with that perspective, you're already thinking I'm less than. Yeah. And I don't see how you can teach and uplift me if you already think I'm beneath you. That's very problematic in so many ways. And far too often we have white teachers entering our schools with that mindset. And then they do their and they did more harm than good in that 1 year. So I would say before I identify my humanity, is check your own purpose, your own supremacist ideals. And then I recognize identifying my humanity. That's need to be a whole program for any white teacher that's coming in before you go work in cities and towns that's predominantly people of color.
I like to also say, and understand the community, and understand the community, and learn to love that community. When you love the community, that's when you're able to go ahead and reach it. And when you're able to reach it, you're able to teach it better. Like you understand everything, every nook and cranny, not beyond the statistics, because the statistics are always given to match whatever bias. It's always given, right? If you actually go ahead, let me go to the neighborhood corner store. Let me just go ahead and walk around that community. And believe it or not, if you've been, you're Caucasian, am I correct? It's bad. Okay, I apologize, but I mean, get it right. But just you walking up and down McCullough Homes, you'll think somebody go ahead and do something they won't. And so the false narrative that you have, thinking you might get robbed or something like that, you will not. And all you're doing is studying, just looking around the neighborhood and saying, like, these young people, they okay, they all right. So I will go ahead and say I really profess to you to go ahead and just study and learn to love the community.
Let me get the truth that I really appreciate what you said. On the heels of that, I would say you also have to be very, you have to care, right? You have to care. If you're not authentic in working with our people, it's gonna come across, right? These kids are gonna leave you so quick, right? The other thing is, don't try to be something that you're not, right? All of us have a set of strengths, and we have a set of limitations. And when you try to overcorrect with your limitation, it comes across as failure, right? Don't be closed to open, asking for help from your peers. You know, think about who you've met in this network. If you need to reach out to one of us to help you think through the challenge that you have in these institutions. And the last thing I'll say is just to piggyback on the question you had is many of these institutions don't want black men as teachers or social workers. So they don't want us, right? So it makes it very, very hard. They'll even market the industry, right? Who makes a product that doesn't market it heavily to the population you want to purchase the product, right? If we are the product in terms of being teachers and social workers, you got to target your campaign towards them. You don't see us being marketed towards them unless there's some crisis in our community. Then you want us to come in and clean up the mess.
Right.
To your questions, what I would say is, so Lerone Bennett Jr., late Lerone Bennett Jr., was a editor for F.D. Jack Magazine, right, author before the Mayflower, author of Forcing the Glory, an important book about Abraham Lincoln. If anybody thinks Abraham Lincoln is a great emancipator, I highly recommend that book. It spells a lot of lessons about him. He has a famous quote that an educator will either be a liberator or a tyrant. So that's something that all teachers have to think about, not just non-black teachers. Even black teachers, everybody has to think about that. And even when we talk about what a tyrant looks like, a tyrant is not necessarily a teacher that's going to, constantly yell, constantly be great, and be overtly rude and obnoxious to children. The tyrant would be the teacher that smiles in your face and practices the concept of soft bigotry and low expectations. I always want to pat the black kids on the head and say it'll be all right. And not prepare them for the realities of the world outside. And also, not attempt to prepare them to be, as the late John Henry Clark said, responsible handlers of power. Because the reality is what we need for our children to be responsible handlers of power so we can be self-organized. This is Malcolm X talk. So with Malcolm X talk, we gotta get into black nationalism, black nationalist thought, and Africanist thought. Right. And that's about being self-reliant and being able to control our own communities, control our own institutions, control our own schools. And it might just mean that your position might be to work yourself out of a job. Because in the next generation, it might not be a need for you to be teaching black children. And that's just the reality. And we have to be honest about being willing to say that. Because that's what it may look like in the end goal, if we're successful.
One other piece here. Everybody has given you some good ways to go. But this is really a systemic thing. And you're early service educator. I'm taking you're training or you're just starting. Okay. Have you ever had a course in your teacher education program in culturally responsive pedagogy or cultural consciousness or anything?
No.
Okay. One of the things that we've been working on, and Davon and I were down in Annapolis, and we began some conversations about requiring teachers as a part of their training to earn service, either service learning, graduate school education credits in cultural competency, culturally responsive pedagogy. Just like teachers have to get a certain number of credits in special education, a certain number of credits in reading, all teachers should have a certain number of credits in cultural competency and culturally responsive pedagogy. So that's what I would say. In one of my blog posts, I write a blog entitled "When Becky Meets Asada and Nasir." It's about my grandson and my granddaughter, and Becky. It's on. You can check it out from the desk of Dr. Brian C. Marks. You can check it out. And it sort of mimics some of what Bobby is saying, but it guides some, it gives some guidance in that direction. But I think on a systemic level, not just for you, but for the sake of our children, the fact of the matter is the majority of our children are going to be in public school. And the majority, if the trends continue, by the next 10 years, there won't be any black teachers teaching in Baltimore City public schools, and we'll still have over 80,000 black kids in it. So you guys need to learn how to help our children as best you can, and take my culturally responsive pedagogy training.
So we're going to go to this young man, and then we're going to come back to the panel, then we will come back to you guys.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Coley Tingale. I'm a Baltimore City school teacher. I teach a positive social change, therapeutic, trauma-informed theater and filmmaking course. What I want to ask of you gentlemen here, not applying to any of you all, because most of you I've personally met and know personally, talk about not being seduced by the seduction of profit and money that is made on black African human beings due to our unhealthy pathology and behavior, similar to white supremacist so-called do-good organizations who profit from so-called servicing us with insufficient treatment, insufficient follow-through, and with no genuine intention of empowering us, simply viewing black people and unhealthy pathology as a way to make profit and still leaving us in the unhealthy situation that we are in.
One person. Who wants to
I can say this, and I said it close before, and I'm keep on saying it. Black pain and suffering is profitable in Baltimore City. Black pain and suffering is profitable in Baltimore City. And white and black has more than two. And for me personally, I can only speak for myself. What has helped me to avoid being seduced by that is simply not losing my damn mind and having people around me to make sure I don't lose my mind. And losing what I mean by that is not losing myself and what I'm supposed to do. It's a difference between servicing black people and supporting black people in their liberation. Servicing is very profitable, and a lot of people have felt for servicing black people. So, if you're committed to supporting other black people in their liberations, you won't lose sight of being seduced by that. But if you're into, what can I do to make a quick buck? Just between, just speaking of human service, social service, what can I do to make a quick buck? Then, yes, that's the only way you move forward.
Okay.
My humble opinion, again.
And so that could be a whole nother forum, discussion, weekend retreat, seminar. And the only thing I will add to Coley's question, just in terms of a response, is if you guys followed the money in a city like Baltimore over the last 20 years, money that's supposed to be allocated toward children and families, you would absolutely be blown away that money is not necessarily tied to positive outcomes. You would be absolutely blown away. And so one of the questions that I asked the panel to think about and respond to, and then we're going to go back to to the audience is I want each of you, because I want folks to leave here understanding the breadth and the depth of the kind of serious work that black men are doing in this town. It's often not reported. Some paper, Afro, talk radio. I just want y'all to get a slice. So starting with Bobby, share with the family either a project that you're currently involved in or a project that you're going to be launching in the next 6 months to a year that is designed to really help move our people.
The project I'm currently working on is Reflection of Kings. It's a Saturday enrichment program where we teach black boys how to use media to learn important culturally life relevant skills, connect with positive members in their community, as well as teaching about social justice issues impacting black men and boys. We just launched our recruitment campaign on Monday. It's in partnership with African Youth Outreach. Raj Trey hits that up. Raj Trey Severa. We both were participants and fellows of Joe Jones Center for Urban Families Practitioner Leadership Institute. That's where we formed our partnership. And this year we launched recruitment with Reflection of Kings. And on Saturday, September 14th, we'll be having our open house where families and community members can come and learn more and also apply. It's at Center for Urban Families on Saturday, September 14th.
What's the age?
Oh, 10 to 13. Boys ages 10 to 13. You can find out more information on our website, reflectionofkings.org.
Repeat that.
No. Reflectionofkings.org.
Did y'all get that?
Our program we have.
So again, black men working with black boys around controlling their own narratives, understanding the media, and being able to develop their own narratives. Thank you, Bob. Next.
So I mentioned I was a high school math teacher for like 14 years, but I don't, from an African-centered approach, I don't really believe in as much in the compartmentalized view of subjects, like, sit in this room for an hour, talk about math, sit in this room for an hour, talk about history, sit in this other room for an hour, talk about foreign language. So as a kind of like in connection with my company, all this math, I'm developing a concept I call hystematics, because in my classes over the years, mixed in with the mathematical content that I would be delivering, like, I'd always end up having these conversations around historical issues, cultural issues, and the one thing that the students would always tell me is, Mr. Parker, you should have been an African-American history teacher. So I would respond to them, I would say, well, I am. I'm teaching you about your history, but there's no reason that we have to separate the two, even though on the report card, you see two separate line items, for those two. So what I've been, I started thinking about that more seriously and trying to be more intentional about connecting and combining history of our African youth, dealing with African history and African American history and African American studies with mathematical concepts, and as a means to try to make the mathematics less abstract and more realistic. Because what I've found is that in my own study and my practice of mathematics, when I'm reading, a text by Kwame Nkrumah or by Paul Robeson or something, like, the language is the same. You hear about systems, like constantly you talk about systems, brothers on the panel mention systems, things being systematic, but in algebra we talk about systems of equations. And a lot of these mathematical concepts that we are kind of conditioned to be like intimidated by because of the way textbooks are written, and because of the way a lot of math teachers are poorly trained, and the way they fail to deliver content in a way that is in a way that benefits students. We're not able to see those connections. And I also think that with a better understanding of mathematics, we better understand history, we better understand the situations that we're within. So hystematics is something that's being developed right now.
So again, think about it. Black men focusing on math. And we know in a city like Baltimore, most cities, when we look at the numbers as it relates to math, we know that a lot of our children are struggling. Thank you, sir. Brother Corey?
Right, I'm founder of Seed the Promise mentoring program. So, like, my whole mission is to go even bolder. Seed the Promise is very intense mentoring, but even bolder. So, like, more youth advocacy programs, taking youth to go to see legislation, to go before the school board or advocate for themselves. Take them on enrichment trips, where so they go into a NAP, they going to Washington, D.C. So it's just like, the main thing is that I talk to my guys about, we gotta go bolder, we gotta go stronger. And the more we go bolder, the more we go stronger, the more we reach, and the more we reach, the more we teach. I'm sitting right here. I'm an unemployed man for Baltimore City Public Schools, and I have done everything manageable possible. But I'm not going to stop reaching youth. I'm not going to stop teaching youth. I'm not going to stop mentoring. I'm going to keep going. It's going to be even bolder and even stronger. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And this brother, they've developed an amazing school-based program. They were at Renaissance High School. I had a chance to partner with them, working with an extremely difficult population of young men in the building, offering life skills. Literally, these brothers would get up out of their beds, go down Central Booking if a young man got arrested. So when they say they're running a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week mentoring program, legitimately, authentically doing that.
What's it called again?
Seeds of Promise. Joe?
So a core part of what we do is to get people into the labor force, right? And the reality of it is we see about 1,100 people that come through each year, right? About 70% of them are male, and about 60% are folks who come from the criminal justice system, who have been in and out of the criminal justice system. And so we are halfway good at getting those folks into the labor market, right? And we looked at some of our statements, and we started to notice that we had people that were coming back repeatedly year after year, and they found themselves in a much different place economically. Some because of the support we provided, a lot because of what they did for themselves. They went back and said, I need additional training, I need additional education. We started noticing people becoming homeless. And so we said, what if we could shift what we do in terms of just the entry-level employment and career-related work and make the norm people on this trajectory toward their own journey of becoming economically self-sufficient, not talking back and forth. How many people here know people who, they kind of think it's a couple steps ahead, but then they do something that really knocks them off and they come, you have one thing go wrong and you always back to square one. So we created this thing that we call All In, that's going to go deeper with the folks who we get into the labor market, helping them to craft a plan that will get them to another place economically and to support them staying there. And we brought in close to 20 to 30 of the folks who made that choice and have been on that path for the last 5 to 10 years to be mentors to those folks who've already started the journey but don't quite know how to get there. And for us, All In is about how do we change the economics of the game that people are playing in their daily lives, and we dismantle poverty. We don't want to talk about minimizing poverty, reducing poverty. It is to dismantle poverty, and that's what's behind our effort.
So did y'all hear that? Black man running an organization, the city of Baltimore, focusing on dismantling what? Poverty. Think about it. Dr. Gregory?
Two pieces real quick. First of all, I don't work directly with young people. I paid out. But I do a lot of training with people who do work with them. And as such, we developed two models that are family-oriented, culturally competent, spiritually based, that have been documented to work with families and with young people in the community. And they're being used by some age and some age. Matter of fact, a subpart of one of the models is the MBF model. MBF stands for My Baby's Father. So it really addresses when you talk about the absentee father and how to engage. So that's one piece. The other piece is as president of what's called the Baltimore Homeless Community. We have a 29-acre farm out in Westminster, and we take youth from schools, Renaissance Academy, private schools, public schools, out to our farm and bring them out for the day. And first they come out and say, "Ooh, it's grass," and as we get past that, they move with the cow. They're doing yoga. They're playing drums. They're doing meditation. And so we expose them, and we teach meditation, mindfulness to the youth. And we even do partner with some agencies here in Baltimore to do that in some of the existing programs that are already here. Teaching people how to be still in your own energy.
So think about taking young people, and I'll make sure they give out, everybody will give out their contact information. I see y'all jumping. We got you. Dr. Gregory also is running men's groups. You want to talk a little bit about the men's group?
Yes. We have the men's group is running now, living well for 6 months. Just brothers, most of them are in human service, education, advocates, and we're working on self-care. Self-care. If your cup is empty, you don't have anything for anybody else. We live in a very stressful time, lots of transition. So we're supporting each other in taking care of ourselves, going deeper and actualizing our potential. So we're taking on for the summer. We're going to start again in September. But last week, besides doing that, we also welcomed Black Mental Health Alliance. Richard. Oh, there he is, Richard. Other Richard talking. Okay. But the same thing. More and more Black men are getting together and say, hey, we have to do this together. We can help heal each other, support each other, and actualize the things that we think are good.
We'll just talk about 3 things. One, again, our mission at William J. Watkins Senior Educational Institute is to ensure that all children, especially those in underserved and under-resourced communities, receive the best education possible. So we try to take our limited capacity and expand it and multiply it. One of the key things in our program is culturally responsive pedagogy training for professional educators, whether they're classroom teachers, administrators, social workers, guidance counselors, whatever. We do that 3 times a year. We offer those trainings 3 times a year at minimal cost, and you receive Maryland State Department of Education CPDs, continuing professional development units that you can use towards your recertification. I mentioned earlier about our Exploring Your Roots program that we had this last year with partnered with Merva. This year we're developing a partnership with the African Diaspora Alliance over at Frederick Douglass High School. And we also have another program that we're implementing as well, which is an environmental justice and environmental awareness program as well, along with the African Diaspora Alliance, where the students will be learning about issues related to the environment here in Baltimore City, going out and developing projects around what they learn, doing research on it, and doing something to positively impact the environment. The Exploring Your Roots program is important because what it does is, again, it helps students to understand who they are and where they come from, and understand their community. The third piece that I wanted to share is, and I'd like to talk to you about the piece that you mentioned about the work that you do with returning citizens. We have a program where we work with men incarcerated in Maryland in Jessup Correctional Institution, and there are 2 programs there that they run that we work with. One is for youth who are incarcerated, and the other one is called Men's Rap Program. And the goal is what we do in the Youth Challenge program. It's a 14-week, 14-session program. And what we do is we help with the educational component, helping the young men who are involved understand the role of education and how their educational experiences have connected with their current situation, and helping them to transition, to be successful within an institution, and when they transition out, to go into a better situation. And that's where I think we might be able to make some connections with them. And those are three of the pieces that we're working on.
And so 76% of students that graduate from the Baltimore City Public Schools that either matriculate to a 2-year or 4-year institution have to take remedial classes. Say that again, if you missed it, 76% of students that graduate from high school in Baltimore City that matriculate to either a 2 or 4-year school have to take remedial courses. And so Much of my work is around literacy. So I write children's books. This is one of my newest books that just came out. Take a look at it, pass around. Because I really believe part of what we have to do is get young people, particularly young black boys, excited and engaged in reading at a very early age. I'm working on a second project. Just got back from Cuba about 2 months ago. Worked with a sister who actually orchestrated the meeting between Fidel Castro and Malcolm X, and she wrote an adult book chronicling that experience. So I'm actually working on a book for middle grade students around that interaction when Malcolm and Castro met, and so that'll be out sometime in 2020. And so I just wanted to give you guys a sense of some of the tremendous. How many of you have heard about some of this work? Raise your hand. A couple people, most people, good to go. All right, so let's come back to you guys, this young lady here. We probably have time for about 4 questions, and then we're going to wrap up. Tell us your name and ask your question.
My name is Liz. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in Maryland. I've been working in foster care for about 10 years. And I was mentored for many years by a black male social worker who grew up in Highland Park, which is like, there's like nobody that, is that demographic in the field. And I'm constantly having conversations with, we're worried about the white folks that are leading nonprofits and that are, making salaries off of the suffering of black folks in the city. And I'm constantly having conversations with people, and they're saying, well, I mean well, and I need to make a paycheck, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And like, that's what everyone says. Is there something that I can say, in addition to just kind of, just mentioning it to them, is there something I can say to get through? Like, we need to take a more radical step than just, I mean well, because they do mean well. But I was just wondering if you have any feedback on what I can say in the way
You don't want me to answer that.
Please, I'm here.
You trust me. Anybody on the esteemed panel, they looking at me because they know how.
You gotta be honest.
Yeah. Break it down.
That's what it basically is, man. If you're not trying to go ahead and do the work with Jennifer about you, get out, stop it, quit. Go to another county, go to the River County. Don't go to staying out city because you don't hear about you.
Anybody else?
You said they have good intentions.
Yeah.
Again, always start there. Start if somebody has good, you acknowledge their good intentions. Give them some feedback.
And then body slam. No, I'm sorry. See, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Because if they're doing that, they're probably not being beggars. They're in survival mode. They're in survival. They're not even being beggars. I'm thinking about using their motivation to get them to think differently.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dominique Willis. I'm a program manager at another advocacy organization called CLEA, and also a 2-time working graduate in the field of social work. First, just as a plug for educators who aren't of color, there's a book called For White People Who Teach in the Hood, and the rest of y'all too, by Christopher Engine. A beautiful book. Pick it up.
Pull it out. Good book, good brother.
That's the luck.
Good brother, get the book.
It's a great book. He's a great speaker. My question to the panel is, and also to my colleagues specifically, I was raised in Howard County, but as you know, Morgan is still so much in us to be prepared to work in the field of Baltimore. What advice would you give to a young black male in the field to speak up in IEP meetings, staff meetings, PDs on behalf of children of color, despite being the only possible unpopular black opinion in the room? Because so many times you can speak up, but then your white colleagues are like, well, no, this is my problem or something else, because I've had that in my church.
Doing my matriculation, I want to say one thing.
Speak up a little bit about
Doing my matriculation at Morgan in the social work program, one thing that was emphasized was, your intellectual competence. Own it and have faith in it, and what was good for you. Because when I had that moment of truth in my internship, it was my aha moment as well. Like, this is what they were preparing me for these moments where I'm the only one advocating and someone has to speak up. So definitely instilling that courage and definitely reminding you of your intellectual competence and also seeking out mentors. That was key to me, being at Morgan State. One of my mentors was Dr. Denise Davis. She's one of up when it's time, because your moment of truth is going to come. And I know, and particularly as I go through child welfare, we're going to have a lot of moments like that. And I have to continue to remember what was instilled in me and having confidence and courage to speak out if necessary.
Also know your youth IEP accommodations. Know them like it's nothing. Know if the youth need a graphic organizer. Know if they need verbatim reading. Know every do it down the line. So when you sit in the IEP meetings, okay, is he getting this accommodation? Or is she getting this accommodation? So you gotta be like that. That's how you combat the system. That's exactly how. And 9 times out of 10 they're gonna stutter like this. And when you get that stuttering moment, you know you got it. You know you're right. And that's how you advocate for your youth. That's how you advocate for your mental health. You have a type of that it is. But you gotta know it all. You gotta know it back to back. And when they supposed to be reading that, and what 80% accuracy. Okay, so what's going on? What parameters not being met? If they have a behavior, if they have a functional behavioral assessment, you gotta know all that. You now gotta know all that. So if you know everything, that's how you combat it. That's how you combat the system in the IEP. You gotta know it all, because that way you know it all, so my child should get it.
Just to piggyback on your point, you have to be professionally correct, and that's where you're rooting. All this other stuff, when you come to the table with your assessment, your evaluation, and it's all rooted in your solid research, your solid educational opinion, as a professional, you stand on that. And the second part is, Morgan State University is HBCU, and they trained you for that. And if you don't do that, then you are not doing what you were trained to do. You went to the wrong school. That's what those professors were doing. They were preparing you to do exactly what you're doing, to be able to perform as a professional at the highest standard of professionalism as a black woman in those arenas, advocating for our children. That's your role. That's what you're there for.
Just one note, though. It's how you do it. You can be firm, you can be persistent, and still be considerate of who you talk to, what your idea is to get through. If you just come off with a lot of anger, then you are discredited. So if you have this stuff tight, and you present it in a professional manner, and you have some emotional stability in the process, that's hard to ignore.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, but other than that, we get pimped by the very thing that we're fighting against.
That's right.
You know, if we allow them to make us angry and split off, we allow them to control us.
My name is George Collins. I'm black man, Baltimore City, born and raised. I'm not going anywhere. Question is to you, David. What is the issue, and what can we do to get this call me Mr. Make a statement? And I wouldn't want that to just be out there.
Right. I really believe it's a leadership issue. Call Me Mr. has been around. Like I said, it originally started in Clemson. Clemson University. I think it's.
South Carolina to bring this up to.
We've been advocating for programs like Call Me Mr. for a number of years, right? Short of some. I just really believe the issue is just leadership. We have HBCUs here that I think would be more than willing, Morgan and Coppin, both have schools of education, I think would be more than willing to launch a Call Me Mr. initiative. I just think that it's a matter of leadership and also pressure.
So leadership politically?
Across the board. Political leadership, leadership in terms of the tax base saying that we authentically need to create a pipeline for black males to go into teaching. Call Me Mr. is probably the best example that I have seen. There is a lot of work. Chris Edmond is involved in some of the work in Philadelphia around really mobilizing black male teachers. They do a Black Male Teacher Symposium every year in Philly, where they're bringing in black men who are currently teaching, either teachers or administrators, along with black males who are in undergrad and even in high school that are interested in getting into teaching. And so again, I think that it's a matter of school board, mayor's office, the governor's office. Ms. Truart probably could shed some more light on that. I see you got your hand up, and I'll defer to you, and then we're going to take maybe 2 last questions. Did you want to respond?
I want to say that I've been advocating for filling one of the 2 vacant school board seats that just opened up. Filling one at least with a trauma-informed, trained professional to influence the decision-making that this board is making. And I am recruiting, I am begging, I am asking for somebody who gets it, who understands the importance of black men in front of the classroom, who understands the importance of recognizing the trauma that our children are exposed to inform those decisions that this board makes every day. And I'm the first up there yelling how foul the decision-making process has been. And it is important to me that we got to figure out how to get the best and the brightest on that board to make those better decisions for our children. It's no pay, it's very little reward. You got me at every school board yelling at you. So
those are the benefits. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take 2 questions, one over here, one in the back. Everybody's bio is on this table, so if you need to pick up bios, I'm also going to have everybody give out contact information and emails, all that kind of stuff. Earl, and then the young lady in the back.
Panel, do you have a model school? After everything that you all have articulated, can you point to us, to the audience, is there a model school that we can look at and extrapolate and build from that? When I say model school, anywhere from K through 12. Yes. Are there any models, just not in the Baltimore metropolitan area, but United States, within the confines of the United States?
So,
I haven't created it yet.
Oh,
but
it's in the pipeline.
Seriously, the challenge is, as I see it, is the instructional model that we have. The current industrial instructional model that we have doesn't work. It doesn't fit, as somebody pointed out, our youth. The big issue is our sending mechanisms don't match the receiving mechanisms that our students have. And another piece that Akil pointed out is this fragmentation of the education. It needs to be much more holistic. So we're developing what we refer to as a 3rd millennium instructional model. And that's been in process for a while. So we've been putting pieces out, testing it here and there. But a real working model, I can't speak to. But I know one is coming.
So I'm going to give you... Oh, go ahead.
So I like the work that this brother named Marcus Klein does with Freedom Home Academy. There's a location, I think the original location was in Chicago. I think he has a facility that's opening up in Atlanta, Georgia, also Miami, Florida. He posts a lot on Facebook of like the actual work that he's been doing with the youth for many years. He's also like connected with CB. I think we also be familiar with CB. CIBI is the Council of Independent Black Institutions. I think that organization is one that should be explored and supported and expanded upon. There's been a lot of, basically all the independent black schools in the United States that have ever been established have been like CB member schools, and that's something that we really need to look into. But Freedom Home Academy, founded and operated by Marcus Klein and others. Right. And that's Klein with K. It can be found on Facebook very easily.
So I'm going to give you a couple. Interestingly enough, Baltimore had a school called the Maharifa African-Centered Children's School that probably sent more kids to college than any other school in the city. It ended up closing. African-centered school, Northwest Baltimore, Haki Mahabooty Positive Development Institute in Chicago. Haki has 3 independent African-centered schools. Test scores are off the charts, and just some of the projects that they're doing. In terms of traditional public schools, Eagle Academy in New York City, run by a really good friend of mine, David Banks. They have an Eagle Academy in every borough in New York City and one in Newark, New Jersey. Then they've been able to close the achievement gap among black boys in New York City and also in Newark, New Jersey. There are a number of different Eagles, but this is Eagle Academy. You can look up Eagle Academy Foundation. Their website will come up, David Banks. Most of their schools send 100% of their children to college, and then you have Urban Prep, started by another good brother who's actually a lawyer named Tim King, Inglewood, south side of Chicago. Every single year, every single year, Urban Prep sends 100% of their students to college, and they raise an exorbitant amount of money for college. And then the Frederick Douglass Academy in Detroit, Michigan. Last example is, how many of you guys have heard of Chris Chapman's work in the Oakland Unified School District, where they have developed a comprehensive African-centered curriculum that's being used in the city of Oakland for black and brown boys. It was created by a brother by the name of Chris Chapman. And so all of these young men have to go through this African-centered curriculum as part of their public school experience. Great evaluation, great data on the success. So those are just a couple of models. We have one last question in the back, and then we're going to begin to close out. Yes, ma'am. Can you speak up just a little bit?
I am currently I'm a licensed clinician and social worker. I am a current field director, field education director at an MSW program at the former practice at State School of Social Work. And I am, so first I want to thank you all so much for having this forum and for your collective and responsibility. I am the new president of the Baltimore chapter of the Association of Black Sisters. So my question as a organization that we need to be at the table of this meeting of these conversations, what would you say, panel, what would you say, give us is how we can support this pipeline that is created for Black Sisters?
I would say, first of all, thanks for introducing yourself and what your background is. So the Center for Urban Families is an organization that has a lot of meeting space. And so I would encourage you to think about us co-hosting something at that facility that you could lead, think about how we would want to attract and have a conversation. So if you're open to that, we can figure out how to do that.
Anybody else? Around the pipeline? So one of the things that I think is really important is I think that the summer is really a great time to start organizing. I think there are a lot of young men in high school given an opportunity to meet black male clinicians and black male educators. I think that we could convince a lot more of those young men to be interested in some of these fields. I just think that we got to do more.
I would say make it a considerable effort. I know since I graduated, I've kept in contact, particularly with the brothers that were in my program. I'm constantly reaching out and having conversations with several brothers since here now. From Washington, D.C., he's another social worker. We're talking about it as well, how we can build synergy amongst each other. So I think black male social workers being intentional about first building a community with each other and then reaching out and connecting with others. And letting others know that that's what we're trying to do. So if you guys can refer brothers to us and vice versa and help build it and strengthen this community of black male social workers. Because they do exist, black men in social work, male social workers, black men in social work. Overall, we do exist, but I think we need to do a better job, a more concerted effort of connecting and organizing with one another, letting the world know that we're here.
I'd like to say everybody's a mentor. this don't have to be a job or anything like that. So just having the people in college who either going for social work, going for any doggone degree, having them actually meeting with young African American males in the communities and like reaching them like, hey man, hey, I see how you are about with the young men around you. Yeah, I think you can probably be a good social worker. You have the really good morals and ethics. So just more like everybody being a mentor to youth instead of just a person living in the hood. Should I say so?
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to be a good steward of time. We're going to take one really super small question, and then the panelists are going to give out whatever contact information they're comfortable with, website, Twitter handle, whatever, and then we'll bring up either Adam or Dave on for some closing remarks. Then you waited to the absolute last minute to raise your hand. Come on.
I apologize, I'm late. This may have already been addressed. I'm Zakiya Sankara with an organization called Racial Justice Now, EMD, based in Silver Spring, which is in Montgomery County. And this may have been addressed, but I'm wondering, have you all encountered or developed any strategies for the systemic sort of anti-blackness that specifically targets black men to keep them out of education and social work field? Because
wait a minute, hold on. You were supposed to ask like a little itty bitty. All right, so really quickly, coping strategies that have helped you maintain your own sanity in the work. Starting with Bobby, really quickly.
Coping strategies?
Coping strategies that personal that have helped you personally rejuvenate and continue to do the work in spite of racism, white supremacy, Negroes, whatever.
But specifically anti-blackness though, against men.
Okay.
Black men.
And we can come back to you, Bob.
You said coping strategies?
Yeah.
Studying the ancestors. The ancestors that have done this work well before me, well before anybody on this panel. Considering what they were up against and what they were able to accomplish, and just believing in the responsibility of carrying on traditions. And I mean that's what I, and also being around people that have a similar mindset and similar goals. Going to conferences and things like that, getting that positive energy has helped me some.
I'm ready now. What's helped me maintain my sanity and cultural open strategy, create your own institution. I came to a point in my life, in my career, that I divorced myself of trying to seek the approval of an institution that never has supported me. I divorced myself from that type of living, and I think the only way, I'm convinced thus far, that black people sustain ourselves mentally, spiritually, however, is creating our own institutions for us and to serve us bodies, as Brother Joe Jones has done. And Hal David Miller has been the model for me in doing so. So Son of a Dream birthed out of it. Just my process from matriculating from graduate school to now, I'm having to interview for the Department of Social Services, where, I'm being very honest, the other counties didn't want to pick me up. And I did not only come as graduating with a 3.9, I had my MSW, I took my exam April 18th, passed it, was issued my license on May 31st, so I came with my credentials. And I'm more credentialed than some of my counterparts, and yet still I was denied a job. So it was only a firm for me that created my own institution. Is the way to go.
Really quickly.
Changa Bell, he has Black Male Yoga Initiative. How I was able to cope through a lot of my struggles is using yoga as a means of, processing and getting through.
That's another great resource, Changa Bell, Black Male Yoga Initiative. Joe?
Yeah, I pick up on Bobby's point around this notion of creating your own pathway. I'll be honest with you. Prior to me creating the Center for Urban Families, I worked in the Baltimore City Health Department, right? And I was sick, right? But I was frustrated, right? And I decided, due I went home and told my wife, yo, I'm leaving. And she said, you're leaving where? Once I had that conversation, and I went to the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, I was scared shit. I was scared out of my wits. I was not confident enough to actually think I could pull off what I said. Right? So I had to start surrounding myself with people. I had to get some people off my book. So I had some people that had no confidence in my dream, my vision. They didn't even have confidence in their own dream. Right? It's like a shed some folks, right? And once I made that final decision, and I went and had a conversation with the leadership of the city, in this case the mayor, the health commissioner, I was so bold, I said, I want to take, not just go out to lead, right? I need this permission to lead, but I want to take the programs, the staff, and the funding I'm responsible for, right? And I made the business case for doing so, right? And after some negotiation, right, I was able to reach an agreement with the city to move forward. But that space that I found myself in, when I really I wanted to leave, but was afraid to leave, right? And once I got over that fear and built my foundation and confidence and started surrounding myself with the right kind of people, then I moved forward, right? But so for those of you who are in here, who are thinking about that next journey building off the Bible's point around Rick Young, don't be afraid. Surround yourself with the right kind of people and stay true to who you know you are.
I use meditation. I'm thinking that we have to go inside. There's a trap out here. The trap is we get so busy fighting against that we're focusing on the thing that we're trying and becoming the thing that we're trying to eliminate. So it's about fighting for. That means I have to get closer to who I really am so I can get my inspiration and move on back. With my faith, with my courage, moving forward. None of this stuff is dead. It just hasn't been put on CNN yet. It is not working. We are in a transition in this town, on this planet. A lot of this stuff is over with. The wealth gap, politics, the school system as it exists that teaches people what to think rather than how to think is obsolete. So we have to open ourselves up to real divine inspiration so we can move on to the next place.
I don't know if this is really answering the question that you asked, but I'll pick up where you left off. The divine inspiration, that's what works for me first. Being in touch with that spiritual peace and knowing that the work that I do with the young people that I see in front of me every day in that classroom, that's really spiritually divine work. And what gets me through when they tell me in a black school district that you shouldn't be showing roots, knowing what my work, what the value of my work is rooted in a spiritual journey. That's what really gets me through. On the physical plane, I love sailing. When I leave here, I'm going to sleep on my bed. I'm going sailing. So that's where I find my balance, brother.
Yeah.
That's where I find my balance. That's where
Everybody got to think.
Everybody got to think.
That's my yoga.
For me, it's I travel to the continent and I take my colleagues with me. For me, it's something that I got to do every day. I got to get out of the U.S. to kind of decompress, to regroup, and to spend that kind of time.
It'll take me next time.
We'll talk about that offline. So, really quickly, give out your contact information. So you guys get ready, pull out your flip phone, or your pad, whatever you got to get this information down. Some people got a flip phone, man. At least 2 of y'all got flip phones in the building. Pull out your smartphones. So we're going really quickly. Bobby, go. Contact information. Nice and loud.
Bobby@sonofadream.com, my website, sonofadream.com. That's my consulting multimedia firm. And for Reflection of Kings, that's reflectionofkings.org. So that's Bobby@sonofadream.com. Yes, S-O-N of a dream.com.
Not the other son of it.
No, son.
I killed Joe Jones, Center for Urban Families.org, CFUF.org, jjones@cfuf.org.
Henry Gregory, email Greg, HANKGREG 49@gmail.com. Phone number 410.
Take your time, Doc.
410-521-5818.
Brian Morrison. You can reach me at Watkins, WATKINS, education.org. WatkinsEducation.org. Or you can check out my blog, From the Desk of Dr. Brian C. Morrison. Yeah, that's it.
The desk?
From the desk of
Okay.
Dr. Brian C. Morrison.
Okay.
Just Google that.
David Miller, Dare to Be King Project, daretobeking.net, DARETOBEKING.net. And so, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have been fantastic. I want to thank, can we thank LBS for even having the courage? Brother Adam is going to share some remarks, and then we out of here.
Cool. All right. Did y'all enjoy tonight's discussion? Yeah. Fantastic. So I'm just going to share some brief remarks, and I'll bring up Davon to close us out. One thing I did want to say, that I think it has to be said consistently more in these spaces, is that, one of the biggest lies that people tell about Baltimore is that there's nothing going on, there's no one doing anything, particularly as it relates to black men. And there's 7 dope black men up here that just told you all the dope work. Is it 8, 7? Can't count. 7 dope black men who told you about all the great work that they're doing. So I expect that everyone who leaves this room tonight who cares about black children, black people, to support these brothers in their organizations. I just want to give them another round of applause for all their good work. Just a quick side note, if you are unfamiliar with what LBS does as an organization, because I may not have told you in the beginning, LBS, we are a grassroots think tank. So our primary objective as an organization is to advocate for policies and legislation and laws that benefit black people here in the city of Baltimore. And so that work is tremendously difficult considering all the forces of structural racism and white supremacy that exist. And so because of that, white folks ain't going to fund you to fight it. And so we spend, it's real. And so we spend a lot of our energy trying to build grassroots resources, and not just in terms of money, but also time and energy. And so if you cannot support us financially, we would love to have you as a volunteer for the work that we do. We work a lot in Annapolis. We go a lot to City Hall to advocate for laws that benefit our people. And so if you're interested in that, all of our contact information is on the table right here. If you want to become a sustainer, feel free to talk to me afterwards or ask anyone else from LBS. I want to thank you again for coming tonight, and I'll bring up Davon just to close this out.
Be a sustainer. I'm a sustainer. Be a sustainer.
So the reason why I asked Adam to ask me to come up just briefly, some of the things that were mentioned are things that require legislation. And so I just want to have, put out an invitation. So even like the Call Me Lister program, one of the things that's happening is the Curran Commission, and that's certainly something that can be included as a part of the law that goes forward to fully fund it. So I just want to, an open invitation for those that have ideas legislatively about how to address some of these things. Please feel free to reach out to us. That's the lane as an organization that we occupy. So feel free to use us as that resource. So again, thank you.